And welcome to episode 2020. We're finally in the double digits of the Good Boys podcast. And yeah, thank you for being here. We have talked on this YouTube channel for at this point probably over 21 hours because
21 hours in the span of like what, 5 fucking months?
yeah. So, good shit. Good
Good
shit.
shit.
We made it to double digits, baby. That's all that matters. So, good shit. Yeah. So, um that's basically the idea for today is I'm going to expand upon a topic that I discussed a bit in my my origin story episode, and that is my occupation now because I tend to have a lot of interesting things happen in it. And I've had Bones write down a few questions for me,
Yes, I do.
and I'm assuming that some of them will probably align with questions that you would probably have too. I can already think of the first one. Okay.
Yep.
But, we're not going to get into that just yet. So, if you don't know, if you didn't watch my origin story, which, I'm kind of fucking pissed off about that you didn't watch that. Um, I currently work at 911, and so I take 911 calls and 311 non-emergency calls, and I also dispatch police, fire, and medical in the county in which I reside. So,
Yes.
yes,
Some popo shit.
yeah, fucking 12.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
fuck
So,
12.
okay, yeah. So I do that for a living right now, and I think people, when they hear someone has that job, they tend to have questions or want to hear stories, and that's what we're gonna kind of do today. Yay! So
Yes.
we'll see how this goes. I didn't write any stories down to like remember to say, so they're gonna come back to me basically. So should I go into how I got the job, or is that part of your question or one of your
That is
questions?
part of my question.
Okay, then go ahead with your first question.
Okay. What made you a 911 dispatcher?
So the story is that I was at one point working two jobs, and I hated my life because I was working those two jobs. So I decided I wanted to find one job to do instead. One job that I could do to earn enough money for my family, and so I could not be working so fucking much. So, um, hopped on Indeed, like everyone does when they are looking for jobs and shit, and um, it just kind of popped up like the listing for it. So I decided, you know what, like why not? Let's just apply and see what happens
Yeah.
because it earned what I was looking for to support my family and only do one job without a college degree too. And so I did that, and um, luckily I got selected to actually participate in the hiring process in general because they have to eliminate people before they even really do anything, but they
Yeah.
let me. And then the first step in the hiring process is you have to take a test called it's called critical testing, which is like an online thing. It has like 5 modules to it, and they all are different tasks or skills that someone would need to do this job. So stuff like um, typing words from audio, like hearing someone say something and typing that down. Same thing with just like visuals, like seeing a word and copying it down. Um, Recall, like note taking and recall, I guess.
What do you
Like,
mean? Okay.
so like in the test, it would like be like a fake, acted call
Yeah.
or like information, and you had to like write notes down on key information that was said, and then it would like test you after. So it's kind of like comprehension, I guess.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah,
someone,
how well you can understand like what like you need to hear, kind of.
yeah, in a way. So that
Yeah.
was part of it, and other stuff like that. So I you have to have like a certain score to pass and move on,
Yeah.
and I passed 4 of the modules, and the 5th one I like failed by like less than 1% or something. Like,
How hard was the test overall though?
I went into it very worried because I have never been like a fast typer. So that's always been that I was very worried that I wouldn't type fast enough. Um, but apparently I did, which is good. Um, but yeah, so it is a little tough. Like, it's not horrible necessarily. If you're a fast typer, then it's not that bad. Um,
Yeah.
but a lot of it's still comprehension and decision making stuff as well. And so, um, even though I missed one of the modules by like 1% or 2, they're like, that's close enough. Like, we're just gonna keep you going, right?
Yeah.
Which was nice. They gave me like a little bit of a break there, and then you move on to like the first oral interview with people,
Yeah.
and I interview pretty well, so that went pretty well. I think and they score it too, because at the end of the process they have they have the test scores, then the interview scores, and that like ranks people. And so if they need 4 spots, they're going to take the top 4 in the ranking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um so did the first oral interview, and then I think you had to do a 2-hour sit along, which means like I'm actually on the floor listening to people do the job for 2 hours to kind of get a small like sneak peek, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because when I went and sat down at like the computer or the computers, I didn't understand the fucking thing that was happening. I couldn't barely understand what was being said in like the radio or on a call. I didn't know what any of the shit on the screens meant, right?
So
So it
you
was,
just walked in there just saying, "What the fuck is all of this stuff?"
yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't actually know what's happening. Um, so that I did that. I'm trying to think of like how everything went. I think next was like a physical exam, and they drug test you and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I passed that because it's a sedentary job anyways. So they're just making sure you don't already have like some significant health issues, basically. And then they do a background check, which was extensive as shit. Like, they had to know everyone in my life and their contact information, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like,
All
sending
of it though, like every single fucking thing.
like almost like I had to like as a shit ton of people, right? A lot of people.
Yeah.
So like I was putting friends and friends' parents and like family members and bosses and teachers and shit like that. And it asked me a bunch of questions about my life, like, have you ever done this, or have you ever done that, or have you ever committed a crime, and blah blah blah. And I
Yeah.
passed the background check because I'm fucking boring, so I haven't done shit. So I passed that, and then they do a mental evaluation. And I kind of
Mhm.
described this a little bit in the other episode, but I'll describe it again. It's like a 2-part thing, the mental evaluation. And I was told before I went in, they said, the person who you interview, because you're going to interview with someone, like, they're going to try to get you to like break a bit. So just keep your cool and just get through it and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So the first part was, bubble sheets or scantrons for
Scantrons are
tests.
so annoying,
Yes.
man.
had to answer 500 fucking questions in bubble sheets, and a lot
How
of
long did
them
that take?
a long time. It took me like an hour, and
An hour.
they would, some of them would repeat too.
Yeah.
Like questions would repeat, and I don't know if the test was one out of like just sheer like tediousness, if someone would get frustrated,
Yeah.
or if they were looking for like maybe like differences in answers for
Yeah.
repeat questions. I don't know. And then you meet with the person who's interviewing you, and in my case it was some dude who apparently was like an ex NYPD investigator, from New York. And
From the Bronx.
I was like, god damn it, of course. And so sat down with him, and the first part of the whole thing was that did he like asked me just like general questions like about my life and like why I wanted to do this job, and why do I think I'll be good at this job, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly what his like thing was to try to frustrate you. Is he would act like every single question or every single answer to his questions was weird or inadequate or whatever. So he would say like, um, what do you why do you think you'd be good at this job? And I would say, let's just say I said like, I really care for people, and I want to do a job that I would, so I can help people. And he would
Yeah.
go like this and write down, right? Like
Yeah.
looking like I'm like, is that a bad fucking answer? Like that seemed like a
Yeah.
pretty fucking good answer to me, but sure. So I learned that I think that was his thing. And then
Yeah.
after that he did some spatial tests, which is like, one of the ones he did was he had like this board, this square that had a bunch of different height pegs on it, and
Yeah.
he would touch them in a certain order, and then you would have to do it backwards, and it would start from like two touches. And then I think I got to like a shit ton. I got to like 11 in a row or something. And other spatial tests, I don't remember what the rest of them were. Um,
What was the point of that test? So it's to like backtrack shit.
I think it's memory, and just like brain function, like checking your like making sure that like everything's functioning properly and that you're able
Yeah.
to do this task.
Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. But then like once I was all done, he just like, it was like a total just change in personality. He's just like, you're gonna do great, congratulations, whatever. And I was like, okay. So I left, and then so I passed that, which was good. um and then you have to do a second oral interview. um I did fine on that again too, because I interviewed pretty well apparently.
Yeah.
um and I think after that you get ranked, and you get told what you're ranked. I don't remember what I was ranked. I want to say I was ranked like number 6 or something.
Yeah.
Or wait, I think I was ranked number 8 or some shit. And I got an email one day saying they were going to be taking the first 7 people. I was number 8. They
Yeah.
were going to be starting to train the first 7 people. And I thought I missed out. I was like, what the fuck? Well, turns out one of those people decided, I don't really want to do this anymore. So I got bumped up to 7. So I got in there,
Hey.
which was nice.
Yeah.
And so I started training, and this whole process started in December, and I got hired in May. So it took a
Wow,
long
dude.
time. Yeah.
Well, what are you doing in between that time? Just working
So
those two jobs, or
yeah,
how's that?
yeah, I didn't quit until that was like a thing. So
So being a dispatcher takes till September to May, so like a very long time, don't you
this
think? Isn't it like, do you think it
December.
should be worth that? Do you think it's like it should be that long to be a dispatcher?
Like I kind of understand it, because they have to really make sure that they're hiring the right people for that type of job. You
Yeah.
get you know things that are going on that normal public doesn't know, and you're handling sensitive information too. So it's understandable. and they want to make sure that you're doing the same. You're someone who can do the job, just like skill wise alone.
Yeah.
So, um, I started in this thing called Academy, which is like kind of like classroom learning for how long was it? Shit, like 4 months. So that the first 4 months was like classroom type learning, um, like Monday through Friday. I think I did it. I want to say I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, at least where I work, you do call taking training for about 4 months ish, which is where you're just taking calls and like you start out, where your trainer is like, they're at all times they're listening, but like at the very start, they're practically like right there, ready to take over if they need to, and they're telling you what to say as you're gradually learning how,
Like a scam caller.
I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
So I did 4 months of that, and then after that you do about like 2-ish months of our fire dispatch training, and
Mm.
then after that you do another like 2 to 3 months of police radio uh, training,
Yeah.
and then after you're totally released from training in that sense, you have a 4 month probation period before you are officially like part of the team on your own, right?
Yeah.
So from May of 2019, I think, then until about May of last year, I
Wow.
was training technically. So um it's about a year long, so a long fucking time.
A year-long process to become a dispatcher, dude.
Yeah, pretty much. But they really had to make sure, and I started like my training class, my group was 3 people. I'm the only one left.
Wow.
um
They all quit or what?
yeah, it's pretty normal, that I've learned it's pretty normal that like half of the people will quit before they even get like released from
If
training.
it's wait, so like you're the only one actually stuck around then to like the end of the year.
to
So
till to like in general, like the both the other two quit during the training time,
yeah.
and I was the only one who has made it and stayed. And normally I've seen about like 50% to maybe even a little bit smaller than that will end up actually getting through training and released from probation.
How many other dispatchers do you work with? Since
Um,
like the process takes so long, like you probably don't have
I
that
think we have
many
like 55 in
coworkers.
total.
What the fuck? No, it's not nothing to what I expected.
Yeah, it's about 55 in total, but the way things are laid out, um, you have a day shift, morning shift, and a night shift, and there's like
Yeah.
3 time blocks in each. So, I think the times are for like day shift is like 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. because they're 10-hour shifts. So 5 a.m. to 3 p.m., or you could get 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., or you could get 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then
Yeah.
swinging is 11 a.m. start time till 9, 1 to 11, and 3 to 1. And then um, Graves technically, wait, there's also, yeah, 3 to 1. And then there's, to try to think, god damn it, what I'm considered Graves right now. I work 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
normally. There's also, and so it's like every 2 hours. The only times there are not like start shift times, the last start shift time is 9 p.m. and not until 5 a.m. So there's no shift that starts at 11, or no shift that starts at 1 a.m., or because it's fucking ridiculous anyways.
Yeah.
Overtime, if you get overtime, then yes, but not normal shifts.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 sides. So we work 4 on, 4 off, and then there's 2 sides, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
it makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much how it's laid out. So
How was like what was your first day on the job? Like
um are you talking about like training, or are
no,
you
like
talking
first day, like officially your
like
first
I'm out
day.
of probation?
Yeah.
It felt very nice first, I will say.
Why
I'm
is that?
pretty, because I didn't have any, like no one was keeping track of me necessarily. I'm on my own. Also in training, you can't have your phone. So if it's completely dead and no one's fucking calling for like 2 hours, which doesn't happen, like you know, people call more often than that. But if
Yeah.
it's completely dead, you can't go on your phone. You just kind of have to like watch things happen, and that's it.
Yeah.
I can go on my phone when I have nothing to do, which is super fucking nice. It keeps me
Yeah.
not like going insane. Um, so that was cool, and yeah, I don't remember it being any like, not, it wasn't too crazy.
Nothing?
Um, well, like I had a lot of my crazy shit happened in training
Yeah. Yeah.
so far.
Like
So
what are like some of those?
um, so I guess I can tell the story of my first active shooter call.
Yeah.
Not I didn't take the call, but what happened was I was on my way to work for training. Um, and I was on my way, and my wife called me and she said that she had saw on Facebook someone post that there was like 40 cops in our downtown area.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was probably an exaggeration, because people on these like Facebook fucking like, you know, police watch scanner feeds, like they listen to scanners and shit, they exaggerate a lot usually, or they're wrong. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's probably not that many. And the way I take into work, at least from where I was coming from, um, I can see down all of like the main streets of downtown as I'm like still on the freeway, if that makes sense. Before,
Yeah.
and I remember getting to that part and being like, well, if they're, you know, in downtown, like I'll pass by them. So I stayed on the phone with her. And the first street I looked down, literally shit you not, it's gotta be like 40 cops. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like the
Jesus.
whole street is just fucking cops and like some fire trucks and shit. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? Like this is insane. And so I get to work, and I'm walking into work, and um our our city like facilities department is right next to us. So like the people who do like maintenance on shit, they're like the building right next to us. One of them was doing work inside of our building and was walking out as I was walking in, and he was just like, "Good luck." I was like, "The fuck you mean good luck?"
Wait, what do you mean? So
He
like
just passed me because I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, something big is happening.
yeah.
And so I'm walking into work, have no idea what's happened yet, and he's walking out and he just says to me, "Good luck." And I'm just like,
Oh.
"What the fuck do you mean, good luck?" I don't even know what's going on yet. And so I go in, and um you know, we so I like at my agency, right? There's you know, the dispatch floor where the dispatchers work, and then we have like a whole administrative side of the building where the
Yeah.
administrative people of the agency work, like the
Yeah.
director and payroll people and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And I go in, and like the first person I see, because when you go in the doors, you immediately see like the dispatch floor at the other end of the hallway, and you can kind of see into the room. First person I see is the fucking like director of our agency is standing in the dispatch floor, like listening. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening? And other admin people are also in there, like watching what's happening. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Okay. So I walk into the floor itself, and we have one TV inside the floor that we put TV on. Normally it's like guys' grocery games and fucking
Yeah.
diner drive-ins and dives and shit.
Oh, that good show though,
And it
not
was,
gonna lie.
yeah, and it was the news, and it was saying like, it was CNN, and it
Yeah.
was like something that was happening here. I was like, what the fuck's going on? And someone said, "Oh, there's an active shooter right now in downtown." I'm like, "No fucking way." And so they
Jeez.
immediately just go and tell me to get on a computer and start shagging calls coming in because
Yeah.
people are calling in downtown being like, what the fuck's going on? And we're also calling people telling them to like not leave their buildings nearby where it's going on.
Yeah.
um I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened because I have to be very careful with this episode. I can't release a lot of detail, but basically a dude shot another dude in like an apartment complex sort of
Yeah.
building and went back up to his room like right after, and he also shot two other people that were inside like the lobby, right? And
Jesus.
goes and went back up to his room. And so for the next like 4 hours of my whole shift, we're dealing with this call and negotiating with him and trying to get him back
Wait,
down.
you were negotiating with him?
No, 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 like the cops were.
Oh, I was about
And
to
it
say, I was like,
it
what are
was
you telling him to piss him off,
yeah,
dude?
no, it was the most hectic day. I went in being like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah.
And I mean, we had like multiple radio channels dedicated to just that event, which is like not normal. And like it was just insane. Like, we're seeing on CNN them broadcasting this, what's going
Live.
on, right? It's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. And so they ended up taking the guy into custody without incident,
Yeah.
which is good. One person died. The other two were just injured, which is good in a way. Like you know,
It's better than,
it's better than them all dying.
yeah.
Um, so that was the story of my first active shooter. It was very fucking weird, very very crazy day, very strange day. I remember it was so active that they told we had to like we wouldn't send anyone on break for like an
Jeez.
hour because
Yeah.
there was just so much shit going on.
Yeah.
And we and to put it into perspective, I think I counted it how many units we had at that call. And every unit is an individual either person or car, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes cops double up, but it's not super common here at least.
Yeah.
I want to say if I remember right, the total of cops we had was 63,
God damn.
and fire units was like 20 or something, or like
What do
fire
you
and
need the
medical
fire units
people.
for?
They're preparing for possible patients, pretty much, like
The
getting
fire
ready.
unit?
Yeah, like in case there were patients that had also been shot, like they wanted to be ready, right?
Wouldn't that be just like the paramedics though?
Yeah, paramedics basically, but they
Or
don't
like,
go in immediately. And so, and we're like C-Tran is like a bus here. We were
yeah.
like working with the bus system to bus people out of the building safely
Yeah.
and into a different location. And so it was, I mean, we had Department of Homeland Security was there. um we had almost every agency in our whole county because we dispatched for hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like seven police agencies, nine, eight. We had units from every single one there pretty
Wow.
much. And it was, which was absolutely insane. I mean, we had units that usually only patrol on the other side of the county that went to that call, which is
God.
insane. I mean, 63 is a fucking lot. I mean, they were calling people in from home to like, hey, we need you here. So it was crazy. It was probably the most insane
Do you feel
day.
like the need for that many like dispatchers was needed that day?
Oh, it would have been great if we had more, but and if I remember right, I think we sent out a page to everyone saying if you're able to come in, if you can, please do. Pretty much. I don't remember how many people took that, but whatever. But yeah, that was probably the most chaotic day I've had. It was just like it was like a whirlwind of like what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
And it was really nice because at the end of the day, because I was working like a swing shift, so I was there until like 1 or something. At the end of the day, when it was all said, done, and dealt with, and one of the dudes who got there first, so there's like a cupcake shop like down the road from where this happened.
Yeah.
Apparently they just like freely gave just like a shit ton of cops like cupcakes and told them to like send a couple boxes to us too. And so one of the cops came and like delivered us cupcakes basically, and they also like gave everyone coupons for like a free dozen of cupcakes and shit
Holy shit,
as out
dude.
of like appreciation or whatever, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Um, so yeah, that was cool, but that was definitely the craziest day I've had, and it wasn't a call I took. I didn't really work on the call because I was still in training, so I
Yeah.
just watched the whole time and like
Would
listened to what was happening.
would you consider that the scariest call you've had?
Well, I didn't take the call, but no,
No, like, well, like, no.
no.
What would be the scariest call you had?
Well, it depends on I think what you mean by scariest call, like
Like
creep.
terror, rawr, or creepy,
Mm,
yeah. Creepy, yeah.
there's one call where I swear this person has to have a ghost, like 100%. Okay,
Yeah.
girl calls in, says that someone's in her apartment, and says that she knows because on the ring, like she has a ring camera set up inside of her apartment that saw like a door move and someone inside the room, right?
Yeah.
And so we send a bunch of units there because we think it's like an active burglary. No one else is inside. She's
Yeah.
outside. No one was in the fucking. No one was there at
Yeah.
all. We cleared the
Yeah.
whole house. No one was there. But she like was adamant she saw someone on the ring camera, and I was
Yeah.
like, "But you have a ghost. Like you have to then, right?" Because she said
Yeah.
she saw someone on a ring camera inside of her house, but we went inside and no one was there. And so either she's crazy or she has a ghost.
Do you think maybe she could just saw something or no
She
at
could
all?
have, I guess, but I mean, she seemed pretty fucking certain. Like someone's in my house. So it was very strange. So I'm like, if you saw what you think you saw, you may have a ghost, which is weird. So it was like weird. I wasn't scared. It was just like, it was strange when they
Yeah.
said that no one was inside the house because I was expecting for them to find someone. But, whatever. God, I don't know. What I was gonna say is the most common question I get is, "What's your
Yeah.
worst call? What's the worst call you've
Like the
taken?"
dumbest call you've called. I was about to say that right now
Well,
too.
yeah, I mean, I have dumb calls, but some people ask for like, "What's the worst?" Because they
Yeah.
want to hear the traumatic shit, basically.
Yeah.
um, God, I forgot. I'm gonna have to put like a trigger warning on this episode, anyways. Um, I'm trying to think. I'll go with stupidest shit first.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so a couple years ago, we had a huge wildfire near us, like super close.
Yeah.
In it was called the Eagle Creek Fire. It burned a shit ton of Oregon, and it partially was like making its way into Washington. Whatever I said, Washington. Um, it was making its way into like basically just in general our area, and was like,
Yeah.
and our whole area was just literally just smoke for a good couple weeks straight.
Jesus.
And there was days where the smoke was so thick you couldn't see 10 feet in front of you
Wow.
outside. So it was really fucking bad, right? And
Yeah.
I'm working during this time, and we're uh, yeah, it was so weird. So this is I have recently I actually forgot about this call, and I recently remembered it, and decided this really was my stupidest one. I got a call from a dude, um, and he was saying that there was a bunch of smoke in his house from outside. So he meant like the smoke that was in the county. And
Yeah.
I initially thought he may want an ambulance because, maybe he has difficulty breathing or whatever.
Yeah.
And he refused an ambulance. And I said, okay, then how can I help you? And he said that he wanted someone to come in and get the smoke out of his house, which
Yeah.
I replied, we don't have anyone to do that. Because, I have to think of my job. I have three options: police. Why the fuck would they do that? They don't do that. They don't get
Yeah.
smoke out of someone's house. I have ambulances. They can't do that either. And fire department, what are they going to do that either too, unless you feel like it's like in your house, like there's a fire in your house. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the case. He was just talking about the smoke from outside coming in. So I tell him like I have no one to come help you out with that. Like, you're gonna have to get an AC unit or some shit, right? And he started asking me, why is there so much fire? Or why is there so much smoke everywhere? And I said, well, we have some, large wildfires pretty close, and the whole county has smoke in it right now.
Yeah.
And he dead ass started to argue with me on why there was fire or why there was smoke.
Yeah.
And he literally said to me, then why aren't you guys doing anything about it? Well, I don't know, bitch. There's fucking a million acres on fire and fucking across, like, not that far away, dude. What do you want? Like, okay, sorry. Let me go bring my fucking fire extinguisher and
Maybe we'll get a water
hope it
bucket.
helps. God damn. I'm like, there are plenty of units working on it, trying to do it. And so he just started arguing with me about why there was fire. He literally said, like, are you sure that's why? Have you turned on the fucking TV, dude? It's like, how are you that oblivious? It's like national news right now, what's going on.
Dude, are you sure there's 1,000 acres on fire right now?
Dude, more than 1,000. It's like 20,000 acres. And I was like, so I'm like arguing with this dude, like, we have no one to come get the smoke out of your house. We are not going to be able to clear the smoke from your area either. And it was just, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how can you argue with me about that?
Yeah.
That's dumb. Now, I had one other call that was close to stupidest, but the reason I didn't make it as stupidest because I think she meant well. We have a river here, and she
Yeah.
was saying that there was a dead fish on the side of the river, and she wanted to know if we needed to know that. Well, one, no, why the fuck do we care? Who, you think we're gonna send someone out because there's a dead fish? No. And the only reason that's not stupid is because that sounds fucking stupid, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, a dead fish on the
I
side of the
mean,
river, wow.
first thing
But
that came to my mind, maybe there's like fucking like oh like some weird ass pollution or something.
no, it wasn't even that. It was just a dead fish. And the
Yeah.
reason it's not stupid is because she was literally just not sure. And I think she was just checking. She wasn't
Yeah.
arguing with me, be like, well, someone's got to come pick up this dead fish and shit like that. But the dude arguing with me about why there was smoke in the whole county because of, nothing was happening apparently. Like,
Yeah.
that had to have been dumbest. Like, this is affecting the whole county. Like, there's smoke inside my workplace right now.
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't get it. I've had plenty of stupid calls though. Um, a lot of my stupid calls are like child custody calls are super fucking dumb. Parents who can't understand that parenting plans are parenting plans, and it's so annoying too. They just think we can just like take kids and give them to them if they ask. It's like no.
Wait, nah, dude. 'Cause I remember when I was a kid, that shit happened, right? And my mom called them to get me, and they fucking got my ass. They just fucking
Yeah,
took
they
me over
don't
to
do
her
that
house.
here. Yeah, that
No.
doesn't no, that doesn't happen here. The only time
Mm,
we get involved is if there's any reason to believe that there's a danger to the child. Um,
yeah.
and usually there's not, or usually they make it up. A lot of the time, it's very rare that there's actually been a legitimate danger to the child. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
because I got put in the back of the car, and I was like, "Why is it so hard back here?"
yeah. I've rode along with a couple police officers like for like a few hours at a time, and luckily I ride the front seat. I get the front passenger seat, but
I'm a hardened criminal, you
yeah.
know?
So yeah, but I'm trying to think like, yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of stupid calls, and a lot of them are like just people who don't know how to resolve issues. They just don't. They do not know how, and it's really weird. People, grown ass adults who don't know what to do about
Yeah.
certain things that are pretty obvious. So yeah.
How involved are you with the calls afterwards?
What do you mean by that?
So, like, for example, uh, like, for fuck. So, like, if something happens, right, and you're like, "Shit, what happened to that?" Like, do you get to do anything afterwards with the call or no?
No.
Like, do they tell you like, oh, like yeah, the call you took just now, it's all good. You know what I mean?
Not all the time, and that is one hard part about my job is we don't get a whole lot of closure or get to know a whole lot about what happens
Yeah,
to things. Like for at least police calls, a lot of the time they'll put in notes afterwards about like what happened, but not every time. And that
yeah,
can be a little tough, especially like serious medical calls, like you're giving someone CPR instructions to
yeah.
do CPR on someone, like literally trying to save someone's life. And if they get transported to the hospital, I don't know if they end up surviving or not unless I like specifically ask, which is tough
Would they
sometimes.
give you that information or no?
Huh?
Would they give you that information or no?
There's certain ways I can go about trying to figure that out. So yes, I could technically find out, but I don't normally try to. Um, so it can be very tough because that is true. Sometimes you have no idea what happened, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to move on and be okay with it, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens after calls, after you take calls. So sometimes you know what happens, sometimes you don't. A lot of the time, most of the time, you don't. So
What about people that call 911 on accident? Have you gotten some of those?
every day, all the time,
Uh,
it
like,
happens all
what's
the
some of
time.
those? Like, what did like?
Pocket dials, butt dials, children on phones. It happens all the time.
Because the
It's
reason I asked is because like I accidentally butt dialed 911 on accident the other day, and they called me back on our private number, and I
mhm.
was like, "Hello," and I was like, "You called 911?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Are you sure? Are you in danger?" They're like, "Yeah, I'm pretty fucking sure." And then they're like, "All right," and they just hung up, and I'm just like, is that all they do? Like they just hang up?
That's
Like
what
they're
we
not
do. So our
they're not
product.
gonna they're not gonna investigate any further. Like, oh, what if this is a fake call? You know, what if like this is a kidnapper and like the
So,
victim called and like what if I was a kidnapper, right? And they're
mhm.
like, okay, bye bye. You know, like
Yeah,
there's no investigation after that, or like
it
how does that
depends.
work? You
It
know,
depends. So
explain
our
this.
protocol where I'm at is we do have to call them back once. Is a protocol. Like you can technically
Uh-huh.
do it more if you want, but our protocol is at least once. And um depending on what the person says or how they say it, a lot of the times I'll just close it out and it doesn't even reach officers. They don't even know what happens. And um as far as like if something was actually happening and someone was lying or actually in danger, it's really just up to the dispatcher's discretion on if they feel like more needs to be looked into it. And you just have to go off of maybe verbal cues, maybe tone. If someone sounds distressed, then I
You could
may
easily be like, "Oh yeah, no, no, that was an accident. I didn't mean to call you guys. My bad. I'm sorry about that." And
I'll
then
be
hang
like,
up. All
okay,
right, time to
yeah,
fucking murder someone.
yeah,
Dun,
and that
dun,
could
dun.
happen, but that's not going to come back to the dispatcher. I mean, there's no reason
Not
if
until
it
months
to
later.
hear, yeah, but you don't get to hear. I mean, if you just hear that, like I would assume like, yeah, everything's fine, okay, you
Months
know.
later, the dude gets captured for murder. Yeah, the dumbass dispatcher. They really thought
No,
that. You know that?
I
No,
wouldn't get
no.
in trouble. No,
No.
no way.
I don't know. Like I'd be pissed off.
Cuz there's
Like
not
that pissed me off. I'm like, what
cuz
if I'm a fucking criminal, dude? Like,
cuz
like it.
there's not enough fucking officers to go pursue every fucking because there's so many a day. There's not
Yeah.
enough to go pursue every fucking pocket dial and to make sure it's not one of those scenarios. There's just not enough
Yeah.
time.
It's because like
So,
that pisses me off because I'm like, dude, I could have fucking murdered someone and just like been told okay by the dispatcher, you know? Like,
yeah, I mean, technically, yes, that could have, but yeah, that's what happens with those. It's up to the person who takes the call whether they make more out of it. Usually,
that's so frustrating.
there hasn't been very often when I've done that.
Okay, so not many, you know. Oh, my ass cheeks
So
called you.
basically, there's like hundreds of unsolved murders that are my fault. So I'm saying, just kidding. So yeah, I rarely set up a call after for like checking into it.
Jeez,
It,
cause
it
like,
just depends. Some,
oh my God.
if they sound distressed or sounds like something's wrong or off, then, I can make it. And then usually at that point, it's up to the officers themselves.
Yeah,
If they do any more. Um, so if I'm ever feeling like not sure about something, I'll just make it up because then like, when the officers do it, if they close it, that's on them. It's not on me anymore.
yeah,
So a lot of my job is one of the things we say all the time is CYA, cover your ass. So, it's better safe than sorry for a lot of things. So that like whether that goes like example of like a different cover your ass thing is like let's say someone calls in a tree on fire and
yeah.
it's 20 feet away from a building, right? There's two ways I
Uh-huh.
can go about this, okay? The first one is I can code it as a outside fire that's not near structures, right? And
Yeah,
that will
a
get
wildfire.
that'll get like one engine, right?
Yeah,
Or I could code it as a outside fire that does have potential structure exposure, which gets
yeah,
a much higher response because it's closer to a structure.
yeah,
In that case, if I wanted to cover my ass, I'm just going to send more people. I'd rather send more people than not enough to
yeah,
something, right?
yeah.
And so that happens a lot where we make a decision like that too. So
So like, if a cat's stuck up in a tree, we got a code red on our
yeah,
hands.
no, we don't deal with cats stuck in trees. We tell people put out food, they'll come down.
Isn't that 411?
No, what do you mean
Isn't
411? 411's like
it
just
like an isn't it like a non-emergency number that
yeah, it's 311. It's not an
oh,
emergency,
okay. I
but
thought it was
even then, we don't
411.
send anyone for cats in trees.
So you're saying fuck that cat, fuck the person's
The
cat?
cats will get fucking down.
Is that what you're saying though? Like, is that what you're
Yes,
saying though?
yes. Fuck the
Okay.
cats. They will come down.
You heard it here, folks. Dispatchers do not care about animal
I've
lives.
legitimately had that call though, where and the lady literally said, "So I think you need to send some hot firefighters out here." And then I had to give her the disappointing news that they don't do that anymore. And she sounded very upset, which I felt bad about because I deprived her of hot firefighters. So, but I have to follow what I'm told to do.
I'm disappointed in it. He should have said, "Oh, it's the fire. There's a cat on fire."
Yeah. And that was like I think while I was still in training, and I heard yesterday that cat's still in the tree. Just kidding.
What was I
It's been
saying,
a couple of years since it came down.
dude?
So yeah,
What
um,
cat, dude? I heard he was infused to the tree by now.
yeah. So
Uh, has any call you've had made it to the news?
yes,
Yes. What call was that? What
multiple.
call
I've
is
had a
it?
couple.
Ah, go on. Go ahead.
Um, my first one in the news was in a local paper, and that was a murder suicide. Um, I had one murder that ended up in like world news or like global or like at least national news. It made it onto CNN and shit.
Yeah.
Um, and both of those were like calls that I took. Um, I can't really think of many more. Like those are like the main ones. I've only had like two like main ones that made it. Like I don't
Yeah.
consider like I've probably taken like a traffic accident call that was like a fatality and it made it into the news, but I don't really qualify that as like a call that I would talk about making it into the news because in my opinion, like those stories are more for like stuff like murders and shit because that's like the more serious stuff.
Yeah.
Um
Have
I
you like are you able to talk about details when it comes to like the one that came up on the news or no?
I can only say what's in the article itself because then that's technically already public info.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I can say as much information that's in the news articles themselves.
Okay.
Um,
Next question then.
yeah.
What's the most sensitive information you've had been given?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't get like government secrets and shit. Like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean,
You know,
if you want to consider like
something
search warrant shit like that, maybe I
something
guess.
like around nuclear codes maybe, or maybe
No,
no, not
no,
nuclear codes.
no. There, this isn't. I don't know if this is technically related to the question, but we actually just got an email from our
Obama.
operations director,
Yeah.
our operations manager,
Yeah.
that a call that's or a situation that's been happening in our county for like it's lasted like months
Yeah.
finally got resolved, if that makes sense. So basically there was a girl in our area who, through online gaming, some dude started swatting her, and we ended up, understanding that these calls are fake. And so we,
Oh, like a Twitch
after
streamer.
after the first or second call, you're kind of like, okay, this is a swatting call again from the same dude every time.
Yeah.
And apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently the dude's taken down like a internet in certain places, and just really bad stuff. And I heard that um, and luckily he got arrested. Um,
Yeah.
and I heard he got arrested like he's going to be coming to here, which would have been really bad. Um, so yeah, that was
Twitch streamer or
interesting,
something?
huh?
Was it a Twitch streamer that I got like
No,
the right?
no, I don't actually don't know any of that, to be honest. I don't know if they're like a content creator or something, but I just know it had something to do with online gaming, and yeah, and apparently like the FBI was involved and shit and
What
whatnot.
the fuck?
Yeah, so
They just walk into your office. Don't worry, Jake. We'll handle this.
yeah, so um for your for your question, no, I have not gotten nuclear launch codes yet, so that's
Hmm.
once I hit 5 years on the job.
Okay. Okay.
I get the the football, the nuclear football, if you know what I mean.
I feel you. I feel
Yeah.
you. All right. What's the daily workflow like?
It depends. Every day's different. Um, yeah, there's no specific workflow. Like I come into work 15 minutes early for briefing, which is like me putting in my break times and filling out my time card and logging where I'm supposed to be sitting in that day, because you don't just sit one radio for a whole 10, 12-hour shift. You switch throughout and whatnot.
Yeah.
Check email, work email, that type of stuff. And
Mm.
then yeah, every day's different. You never know what's going to be a slow day, and you never know what's going to be a heavy day. There's just no way of telling. So,
Interesting. How do you think being a dispatcher would be like before you joined?
um, I don't know if I necessarily had much of a preconceived notion.
Yeah.
I thought, if anything, I thought it was a bit more high tech than it actually is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like fucking like blue room, no, like dark room, blue lights everywhere. Full
Yeah,
screen, like Dr. Xavier X-Men type of stuff.
yeah, people think that we have like we know, through GPS where they're at all times, and that's just not necessarily true.
Oh, not
Um,
necessarily, but like some of
Sometimes
it
we
is true.
can. Sometimes we get good hits off of their phone on where they're
Can
at.
you, can you how do you do that? How do you track someone's phone?
It's automatic. Like when they call, so when someone calls into 911, not 311, but when they call into 911,
Uh-huh.
we automatically get a
The location.
area. Now we have a thing called phase one and phase two, right?
Uh-huh.
Phase one is like they could be anywhere in the county. This literally is just where what cell tower it last pinged off of, so it's literally nothing. And phase two means like we have a actual circle radius about where this person is, and it
Uh-huh.
can range from 130 meters to like 5 meters, right?
Yeah.
And it just depends. There's no specific way of knowing what you're gonna get. It could, I mean, it's just random and luck, really, on what you get.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like the other day I saved someone's car. Not the other day, like a couple months ago. I think I told you about that. I saved someone's car from being stolen by calling 911. right? But like
I
I didn't
want to
know
say
it
you
was.
said something about it.
Yeah, it was like it was next to a Burger King.
Oh, that's right. That's
And
right. Yeah.
yeah, and then I remember I didn't know the street name. I was like, "Oh, it's by the fucking Burger King next
Hmm.
to this fucking store, you know?" But like,
Yeah.
couldn't they just like track my call just to tell me like check where I was, you
I
know?
know.
See where, no,
A lot
no.
of people think we can, and I mean, like I said, to an extent, sometimes we can have a pretty good idea. But
Yeah.
per protocol, and it's probably the same with every agency, we always have to verify that location through the caller. So the caller needs to tell us either an address, or if they're at
You
a
don't know the
business,
name.
say I'm at Burger King at this intersection, is
Yeah.
really important because, at the end of the day, technology is technology and sometimes it can be wrong. And so you have to verify that. So my biggest piece of advice for people watching is, if you're going to ever call 911, is insanely important you know your address. Like
What
insanely
if like
important. We can't do shit without a location.
what if like oh, so like if like they don't know the location, like like there's no way of like knowing or what?
If it's a life and death situation, we can do like a ping through the cell phone provider,
Yeah.
but I would say I can only count a couple times when that's actually been useful. A lot of the times their pings are fucking like, they give you the Latin long, and then they'll
Yeah.
say, and I'm like, okay. And then they'll say, certainty of 3,000 meters. I'm like, well, fuck me. That's like anywhere in my fucking area. Okay, cool. Thanks. Like, that tells me nothing.
You'd
So
assume it'd be like right like dead ass where you're
you would
at.
think, but it's a lot of times it's fucking not. It's so dumb. So so it's important for you to
So
know.
like, basically the government can't track me. Then is what you're saying.
I mean, I don't know about like NSA level shit, but 911 stuff, not necessarily. Like, not all the time,
Interesting.
I guess is a better way to put it.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like that idea. What were your first impressions of working?
Um, I thought it was cool that I could know what's going on in my county more than other people do, but then I learned that's actually kind of stupid because it's a little depressing
Yeah.
knowing everything that happens. Um, I think one thing I've learned now too is we certainly don't do enough for people with mental health. We get people who call in with mental health issues all the time, claiming
Yeah.
stuff that happens that didn't happen. Like literally people who call every day about the same thing every day, and we just have to be like, okay, thanks, that's it. Like, so we definitely as a nation need to do more about mental health as well as like homelessness. And but like first impression, like it was cool at the start, but now I'm kind of like burnt out and
Yeah.
whatnot. So yeah. It's not exactly like, it can be exciting and you can have adrenaline rushes here and there at the job, but at the end of the day, like, one, it's not the easiest job on your mental health, obviously, for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. I mean, yeah, things I've heard are crazy. And yeah, that's I don't know, just it's not the same anymore, which is fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it's my job and it is what it is. But
If you want something better, just join the NSA.
I could, and then I would know where to go find you. So easy
Exactly.
peasy. GG's.
What does your family think of your job?
They think it's cool. They think it's, especially my wife, she's super nosy, so she loves to know all my calls and shit like that. Which can be a little sometimes annoying because when I get home from work, I don't necessarily want to talk about work,
Yeah.
but she wants to know what happened. And I'm also at a point where like things just kind of like blend into each other, and I don't like, I can get home and just not remember calls I took
Yeah.
unless they're specifically like interesting or crazy. So it's so she likes it for that reason. And like as far as like my parents goes, I guess they think it's cool that I'm doing something like important. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. How is the environment while being a dispatcher?
Like inside my work itself,
Yeah.
like, are you asking like what it looks like in the dispatch floor practically?
Like work environment.
I mean, it's fine. People, I think that are in like a super like dimly lit room, which is not true. It's lit all the time. The lights are always on. Um, I have like for monitors, I think I have six
Six?
at every pod. You have three that are like your primary screens for what you're doing. You have
Yeah.
one screen that has all of your radio channels that you can click on and toggle. And then there's two for the phone. So there's like the bottom half is like where you take the calls, and the top half is like a map and kind of helps with the location part of it.
Yeah.
So six screens in total. Yeah. So
Six screens in total. But like, what does each individual screen do?
I mean, like I said, the three of them, like it's usually two and then one on the top, and those three screens are for like where you make calls and dispatch and do all of your that shit. You have another screen somewhere over here that is where all your radio channels are, and you toggle them on and off depending on where you're working. And then you have two for your phone, like
Right.
receiving and putting out calls.
I see. I see. I see.
No.
Do you plan on leaving 911 dispatching?
Only if I found something that I felt like was better and higher paying.
Not only
But
that,
but with the benefits that I get at work, it would have to be pretty fucking like a lot higher paying.
do you feel like the benefits are like overcome more of a fucking pay?
Yeah, I mean we're part of like a union pretty much, so like health insurance is pretty cheap,
Yeah.
for the most part. Um, in dental and paid time off, we get a pretty decent amount, and vacation
Yeah.
and whatnot too. So yeah,
Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting, Jake.
yeah.
Um.
I thought you said you only wrote down like four questions before we started.
Oh,
You've
I
asked me way
lied.
more than four.
Yeah, I got like a whole fucking.
Oh, okay, yeah, we can keep it going. Fuck it.
That was kind of my last one. Not
Oh,
gonna
okay.
lie.
Yeah. So
You
sorry.
kind of answered them a lot of them, like
Yeah.
when you were talking. Like I was like, "Fuck, dude, he already fucking said that."
Yeah. Well, sorry I didn't go into any of like my more traumatic calls.
Yeah.
Maybe a different time. I mean, I kind of told the active shooter thing, which is like the craziest day I've had, but it's not like the craziest call or anything like that. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah. So if you have any further questions, you can comment them down below. Maybe eventually I'll do another one of these where it's just more just stories in general, not just like what dispatching is like. So maybe we'll see. But
Yeah.
I think that's going to be it for this episode of the Good Boys podcast. This was episode 20. Please like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate it very much. We hope to see you
Yes.
next time. And yeah,
Like my balls.
yeah.
Yeah.
Drag on these
Like
nuts. Drag in these nuts. Suck on these
drag
nuts.
on,
Suck
suck
on,
my balls.
Sugma Ninja Dida Ligma.